morning. Welcome to Studio One. We join you from our studio located here on the campus of the University of North Dakota. Nice to have you with us this morning. I'm Tom Beering, your host. Looking ahead to this half hour, we'll meet the president of the USA Amateur Boxing Federation, Billy Dove. Also joining us, a nationally recognized expert on calling dozens of game animals and birds, Dave Edlifson. And in our open door segment, building an NBA franchise with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But first, let's go to the news desk and Amy Bremser. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Tom, and good morning, everyone. Tensions remain high in Lithuania today, despite attempts to staunch a potential blow-up with Moscow. Kremlin officials and the Lithuanian government are trying to make compromises in the Baltic Republic's bid for independence. President Bush is working behind the scenes to bring the two sides closer together, but the U.S. won't likely play a major role in settling the dispute. A foreign language requirement for admission to UND and 3 other state universities is getting a cool reception. The College Prep Committee is considering phasing in language requirements by 1995. However, many North Dakota school districts are balking at the cost of gearing up for the program. A recent proposal by Prairie Public TV to offer foreign language instruction may be the only way of implementation. With the start of the Kentucky Derby only a month away, 2 Grand Forks businesses are busily preparing to open their doors to pari-mutuel betting.
The Westward Ho Motel is one of the sites eagerly awaiting the Run for the Roses. Work is underway to renovate the motel's palace dining room into a gambling showplace.
We've got our construction plans, which are not real great, but we've got a bar purchased and all our back bar equipment and everything. And then we'll come in with new tabletops and a new lighting system, and of course all the monitors and the big screens.
Despite growing community support for betting on televised horse racing, the issue of allowing betting parlors to open on Sunday and sell liquor is still a hot topic for debate in council chambers.
It seems to me that it's unfair to the other operators in town because they are not allowed the same ability to sell and to reap the profits, so that it gives these two people an edge. So it just doesn't seem to me that it's fair. Besides, it's sort of playing fast and loose with the law, in my opinion.
The council has approved Sunday betting and liquor sales, but Crawford says there's pressure for some revisions. Westward Ho manager Scott Lindgren says those who support Sunday betting in Grand Forks are striving towards a productive economic future for the city and the state.
You know, I think it was a real progressive step for our council to view it that way, and hopefully that you know, down the road we can possibly get this Sunday situation resolved once and for all.
Customers can place their bets in a few weeks during the Palace's grand opening the weekend of April 21st. East Grand Forks is the site of this year's National Bantam Tier 2 hockey tournament. The tournament, which includes teams from 9 different states, got underway last night at the East Grand Forks Civic Center and the VFW Arena. 25 games are scheduled throughout the weekend round-robin tournament. The championship game will be held Sunday evening. More than 200 people cheered as Brad Cole was chosen Mr. UND in the Memorial Union Ballroom Tuesday night. The contestants modeled casual wear, boxers, semi-formal dress, and had to answer an impromptu question. Cole says he took the competition very seriously. He's going to be using the title to beef up his resume for his modeling career. And that's all for Studio One News. Tom?
Okay, Amy, do you remember the environmental crusade back in September and October of 1988 that had volunteers combing the shores for garbage? You remember that? Well, the Center for Marine Conservation released some results of that effort that total up this way. Volunteers cleaning up 3,500 miles of beaches and shorelines collected nearly 1,000 tons of trash, including items such as ropes, fishing nets, soda bottles, this one's going to throw you off, and hair curlers. Georgia topped the heap among states by hauling in 4,000 pounds of debris per mile. In all, every state running along both coasts participated, which we're all encouraged by. But I'm still stuck on the curlers. Perhaps one too many perms in the Love Boat, maybe, huh? Studio and meteorologist Bridget Mikula joins us for a look at the weather. Bridget?
Thanks, Tom. Across the nation this morning, warm temperatures and wet conditions across most of the east. Cloudy conditions across most of the northeast, with fogs and showers across the southeast. Over on the west coast, a frontal system will be moving in, bringing cloudy skies into the Pacific Northwest and clear skies in the California region, with low pressure dominating. Into the Great Plains region, clear skies throughout much of the Midwest and fog into Kansas and Nebraska. Low temperatures across the nation this morning. The winter temperatures in the 20s and 30s are pretty well diminishing, except for into northern Minnesota and into the New England states. 30s across into Arizona, all the way into New York, and 60s and 70s into the southeast. Current conditions in Grand Forks at 7 a.m. The temperature is 38 degrees, the winds are south at 10 miles per hour, and the relative humidity is 80%. The regional temperatures today: 38 in Grand Forks, 29 in Williston, in South Dakota, 30 Falls in Sioux Falls, and in Minnesota 36 up into International Falls, and 33 into Rochester. I'll be back with a look at the nation's forecast and the Red River Valley. Thank you. Tom?
See you then, Bridget. Don't forget that the Census Bureau wants to receive your census questionnaires back by this Monday. The Bureau also told us that there is now 250 million people living in the United States, 250 million people. Put that into some kind of perspective for you. You could wrap the earth 4 times over, standing everyone shoulder to shoulder. Feeling a little bit claustrophobic yet, are you? 3 countries ahead of us in population: China with 1.1 billion, India 833 million, and the Soviet Union account for 289 million people. It's 6 minutes past the hour. Coming up, a very influential contributor to boxing in America, the president of the USA Amateur Boxing Federation, when Studio One continues.
From the McGruff Files, the Philadelphia story. In certain parts of Philadelphia, things were rough. Areas were run down, crime and drugs were out of hand, and honest folks felt like prisoners in their own homes. People decided to work with police to turn things around. Weekly meetings led to cleanup projects and folks working together. Soon the neighbors had their neighborhood back. That's what happens when people and police work together. Write this down and I'll show you how you can help take a bite out of crime.
All right, let's see. My taxes, income tax.
For some people, doing their basic tax forms by themselves can make them feel like they're climbing the walls.
My full name is, I remember that, Dependents.
If you need help, free tax help is available from IRS-trained volunteers. Find them by calling 1-800-424-1040. They'll make your taxes less taxing.
Welcome back to Studio One. With the proper programs and guidance of our first guests, amateur boxers can turn the dream of an Olympic gold medal into a reality. Billy Dove has been the driving force behind the USA's talented young amateur boxers. He's the president of the USA Amateur Boxing Federation, which serves as the national governing body for amateur boxers and is responsible for the administration, development, and promotion of Olympic-style boxing in this country. Billy Dove, welcome. A pleasure to meet you. Good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Thank you.
Billy, tell us, for those that maybe need a greater definition, the difference between professional boxing and amateur boxing. What does amateur boxing offer to the boxer that professional boxing doesn't?
Well, basically, what we're offering these young people is self-confidence through the sport and the opportunity to have something to do, to get them off the streets and give them a sort of a avocation in later life. Not necessarily the professional side of it, but of course some of them do go that way, but only a small percentage eventually make it into professional ranks. But we try to build self-confidence and citizenship and that sort of thing in these young men.
Are the majority of boxers today going through that type of a program, an amateur boxing program?
Yes, all of our amateurs have local programs where they're located as far as their homes are concerned. And it's a progressive type thing, and they'll compete in different states and then a series of tournaments all the way up to our national championships, which we just completed in Colorado Springs in early March.
Over the years, Billy, has the quality of boxers, has that changed over the years?
It's different. I won't say the quality's increased, but through new techniques and training and new equipment and that sort of thing, that it has improved. But I think the quality of boxers, it depends on the period of time that you're in, but basically it hasn't changed. It's still the same. The
number of participants increasing?
Yes, we're increasing. We've recently adopted a 8-9-year-old boxing age group, which is very restrictive in that they can box only locally where they are. And then our normal program is 10 through 15, and then through 16, and then 17 and on up is our international age group boxers.
Billy, in professional boxing, as the fight purses increase, is there any concern or are you seeing any statistics or fallout of boxers that are declining amateur for professional?
We always have that problem. And I don't think it's so much that the boxer himself is that it's the people who are guiding him or leading him into the professional because of the money that's involved. And I don't think the purse increases or the big money has a lot to do with it. It's initially pocket money to begin with. And most of these young people grow up in areas where there's very little money available to them, and it's always an incentive by the coach trying to get this boxer to turn professional for his benefit as well as for the boxer himself. And we do lose them. It's unfortunate because we lose a lot of good young boxers who turn professional too soon. And there's only a small percentage of them, as you know, that really make it into the professionals and the big money. And we try to steer them away from it until they're of an age, like after an Olympic competition, as an example. And in our country, after the Olympic Games, all of our Olympians turn gold, or turn professional, so we have to start all over in our programs. But basically, the money is there, but I think it's the influence of the coaches and the promoters that get these young people into professional boxing.
Billy, speaking of the Olympics, how do we stand for 92 interboxing?
Oh, we're doing real well. The past 2 years, or last year and this year, my program has been to get as many of our young boxers as possible in international competition. Now, in 1989, we had over 100 boxers compete internationally. And we're using different boxers in different competitions. And to give them that experience on the international level and working our way up to the Olympics in '92. And at the end of this year, then we're going to start picking the best of these boxers and then come down to where we're going to pick our Olympic team and get the 12 best in the United States.
Here's a trick question for you. The best boxer Billy Dove has ever seen or worked with? You're going to get a lot of friends or a lot of enemies in this one.
I guess probably the best boxer I think I've ever seen is Sugar Ray Robinson. Probably the best amateur that I knew of was Sugar Ray Leonard. And Robinson, I just don't think when he was at his peak that there was anybody in the world could ever beat him.
Billy Dove, what a pleasure to meet you.
My
Enjoy your
pleasure,
stay.
Tom. Thank you.
Enjoy your stay. President of the USA Amateur Boxing Federation, Billy Dove, when Studio One continues building an NBA franchise with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute the office
of President of the United States
of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
The Constitution, the words we live by.
Amazing what a sports franchise can do for the identity of a city, especially a new franchise preparing for their inaugural season. Expectations are high and enthusiasm delirious. It's difficult for the fan, but more difficult for those involved. Belonging in the organization, coming with unending decisions, directions that have to be charted and specific, and success only spoken as years away. Today in our Open Door segment, the first-year Minnesota Timberwolves and their approach to building an NBA franchise. After successful entries from Miami and Charlotte, the National Basketball Association completed its 2-year expansion this past fall in Orlando and Minneapolis. The Minnesota Timberwolves are experiencing what all new basketball franchises must, looking from the bottom up at an off-court undertaking that's far more work than it is play.
A typical work day for many of us is to be in no later than 6:30, 6:45, and that's usually about the same time you leave in the evening as well. But you know that going in to getting a job in professional sports, and that's just, you know, the half of it, I guess, is the hours you put in. The amount of things there are to do to get a pro sports franchise started today is incredible, and I think until you've lived it, there's really no way that the general fan can appreciate that.
I've personally flown over 150,000 miles watching college, pro, CBA, and even high school players. In addition to that, it's been coordinating our camp times, our camp sites, making sure that we have our practice equipment, working with Bob Stein and hiring a trainer, scouting staff, assistant coaches, being a PR person for the ball club, doing radio shows, television shows, different charity events. A lot of hats.
To help assemble the Encore product, the Timberwolves hired former NBA guard Billy McKinney, considered by league officials as the biggest front office prize the Timberwolves have landed.
We want to build with character, players that have the right kind of character to come in here and play for us, good people that have basketball talent, players that play hard, And those are things that you always refine over the years. So you can always refine your philosophy so that it gets better. We want to establish a tradition now of players coming in here and taking pride in playing for the Timberwolves and building a successful franchise.
Organizational decisions are seemingly endless, from the selection of team colors to players. None more critical than the naming of a head coach, in which the organization tips its hand as to the philosophy of basketball it feels will produce a winner.
Well, I think my philosophy is to get the team to play hard and to play together. And I think you play like you're down 20 points every game. And I like to feel as a coach, my job, if a guy comes off the bench and you have an 8-man rotation or 9, that if you play your 12th and 11th and he gets in the game and there's only 4 minutes to go and you're either up 15 or say you're down 15, that you continue coaching that 12th, 11th man and expect him to execute, and you coach them all the same. And you coach the same whether you're up 15 or down 15. And that's my philosophy, because you coach against the game of basketball, and you coach each player against himself to get the maximum out of each individual player.
Bill Musselman needed no introductions to Minnesota or the rest of basketball, a result of his coaching days with the University of Minnesota, the NBA's Cleveland Cavaliers, and most recently, the Continental Basketball Association. His reputation is that of an extremely intense and intelligent basketball mind.
And sometimes I've had, in the past, had a team up 20 points, and they see me out there intensity, upset because the guy turns the ball over. I do that psychological for a lot of reasons. I want the 12th man, if 11th, he's in at the time of the game where it's either won or lost, that I feel he's just as important. That I want him to play as soundly as somebody else who's in an 8-9-man rotation. That I expect everybody is important to me. The 12th man, regardless of the score, I want him to be performing at his highest.
Expectations for every expansion team during its first couple of years are bleak, to say the least. Although fan loyalty is immediate, the Timberwolves, like any expansion team, face the challenge of keeping ticket sales up over the initial losing long haul.
We know you can't guarantee wins and losses, and we know sometimes when teams do lose that enthusiasm can drop off, but we think we can do enough other things that people will have a very good feeling about the Timberwolves and want to be a Timberwolves fan regardless of the win-loss record. We also think, too, Tom, that we'll be a successful team. We're not going to win a title right off, but we think we'll be exciting. We think we'll have an enthusiastic team, one the fans can be proud of, and one of these days they'll be rewarded if it's wins that they're after.
One of those rewards, a new arena, under construction and ready for the 1990-91 season. This 18,000-seat, $60 million facility will be considered one of the nation's top venues for sports and other entertainment events. Until then, the Metrodome has been their home for their debut season. And of course, the Timberwolves have its share of talented heroes and on-court personalities, most of them adjusting from successful professional or collegiate careers to the unflattered distinction of becoming one of the league's doormats.
Well, I think the advantages are that you have the opportunity to play a lot and get the experience of being an NBA player at a very young age and going to an established team. I don't think that opportunity presents itself as it comes rarely. It's just really a great situation for me.
Well, I feel that, for me personally, I know Coach Musselman, and he knows me, and I have a rapport with him in a way that I feel very comfortable. I think, if anything, though, it's important for a player, though, to feel very comfortable with his coach and the organization that surrounds him.
If we have great competitors, they would compete if they were playing on their own. And I really believe that, our job is to put a team that plays hard and competitive on the floor. I mean, that's just because you're an expansion team, you don't give ground and compete as hard as you can. That would destroy everything we want to do. We're trying to put in our philosophy. We want to build it properly, and we want to do it for the long haul.
The last basketball franchise to begin in Minneapolis won 5 championships. In 1960, they packed up, headed to Los Angeles, and kept the name the Lakers. The new team in Minnesota already knows that growing pains and small beginnings are what basketball dynasties are built on. To give you an idea of the tremendous workload that these folks are under, the director of media relations whom we spoke with announces resignation before the season even got started due to the stress and time commitment. For the rest of the architects of this team, they seem to be doing things right. At this stage of the season, they've won more games than any of the other 3 expansion teams, and they've already set the 2nd all-time highest NBA home attendance record, approaching the 1 million mark. Got to be doing something right. It's 20 minutes past the hour, still lots ahead when Studio One continues.
Kareem, we'll never see eye to eye on anything.
Don't be so short-sighted. We can both see that space research benefits everyone.
Oh, like the scratch-proof lens developed for the Apollo space camera?
That same technology led to scratch-proof eyeglasses, sunglasses.
And even goggles.
You wouldn't need those if your horse was always in front.
That's a tall order.
What we're learning up there
is helping us all down here.
Space technology.
This is what's in it for you.
Yeah, okay. You've heard the song, You Can Talk with the Animals. Well, our next guest not only can talk to the animals, he can sound like the animals. Dave Edlifson is a nationally recognized expert on calling dozens of game animals and birds. He is now a consultant to many game call manufacturers and has recently started his own company where he makes game calling devices for sportsmen. Dave Edlifson, a pleasure to meet you. Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on this morning. There's no easy way to doing this, I would imagine. Am I correct in assuming, Dave, you've got to go out in the bush, wait, and listen?
You've got to spend a little time out there. There are several different types of cassette tapes and stuff you can listen to over and over and over again to get some of the basics, but there's nothing like actually being there to make sure that you're doing everything exactly correct.
So lots of long waiting. Patience, huh?
Patience is what they tell me is a virtue out there. Sometimes it's frustrating, but yes, patience is part of the program, yes.
When do you know you've got the sound down? What type of criteria do you use? Is it your ear, or is it the way the animals would respond to you?
Well, basically both. Once you know you've got it, it's there and you know what to do to make it right. And of course, the major criteria is if the animals actually respond to you and come to you.
Can the animals sense or tell if the sound is imitation?
Many times. If it's wrong, you got to remember that there's this guy named God. He made all these different animals and he gave them all different voices. And if you make the sound of, like a duck and you're trying to call a deer, which some of the sounds are almost a little similar down there, the deer can tell the difference.
You've never had an animal laugh at you then?
Some of them fall over in complete tears. No, they can tell the difference. Generally, when you do it wrong, they either fly away or run away.
Now, Dave, when you product the market, are we talking primarily about hunters?
Well, hunters is the primary resource, of course, that we try to go after, but there are, I do a lot of photography work as well, too, and there's a lot of people that just want to go out on nature hikes or the bird watchers and things of that nature that want to get the animals closer to them, and making the sounds that the animals actually make is probably one of the best ways to do that.
Dave, does it put you in a compromising position? If you're sitting out spending time with these little animals, you maybe grow attached to them, then to product the market to hunters, do you find yourself kind of in a catch-22?
A bit. I love all these animals as well, too. They're great. But I figure as well, too, that, the Lord put everything in front of us to enjoy, and we're supposed to be masters, all of these, not to go out and wholesale slaughter them, but you can harvest them if it's necessary as well, too.
Dave, you've brought in a treat for us, a variety of different calls here. I'm gonna turn it all over to you. Give us a running example here of what you got.
Well, we're going to go with some ducks to begin with. Most people think all ducks quack, and they don't. Mallard ducks are ones that quack. If you take a game call like this one, you go. Most people think it's a mallard duck. Well, they're correct. That's what a mallard does. But mallards aren't they're the only ones that quack. You get into like diver ducks like, bluebills or canvasbacks, something like that, and they make a sound like this. They make a burring type of sound. And if you get into another type of sound altogether, you get into like a wood duck. About 12 years ago, there were very few wood ducks around, and it was the hunters that actually brought them back by putting up nesting boxes and so forth. And wood duck doesn't quack at all. He doesn't make the sound of a burring sound. He makes a peeping type of a sound. And you get into animals like geese. Geese make different sounds altogether. Geese, you get into like, snow and blue geese, things of that nature. Snow and blue geese make a sound that go like a little higher pitched voice, and they go. All different types of sounds like that.
To animals, you surprised me with something, that you got something for rabbits. We didn't know rabbits could make those kind of
Most people don't realize that rabbits make any sounds whatsoever. They got the little bunny in the garden. They hate them eating their broccoli or lettuce or what have you out there. But most animals in the wild, any game animal or any animal, pretty seduced. They're very sedate, I should say, very quiet sounds. And when a rabbit makes a sound, it's in deep trouble. And a rabbit sounds like this. Sounds like a baby crying. Of course, if you're a predatory animal hunter, for fox or coyote, to a fox or a coyote, that rabbit sound sounds like lunch. So what you want to do is be able to imitate that sound. If they don't like that sound of a rabbit, you give them the sound of a, give them a chicken, or if they don't like that, a pheasant is good. If they don't like that, a raccoon. If they don't like that, oh, the heck with it, make them eat crow. Lots of different sounds.
Could anybody learn?
Well, if you've got the desire, I can teach you how to make it. I think there's this guy named God gives you all these different types of talents, and this just happens to be mine. I want to teach people how to make the different sounds, whether they harvest with their gun or their bow or their camera.
Dave, a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Glad we shut the door behind you. I'm afraid to open it up. Who knows what'll be out there. We'll take a look at the weekend forecast when Studio One continues.
This company needs quick decisions. So does yours. This company needs leaders. So does yours. This company needs well-trained people. So does yours. So when this company needs to borrow people from your company,
come on, man, move it on. Let's go, let's go.
Remember, they'll always come back better than they were before.
Hey, Bill, could we get your approval on this?
Be a hero. Give your employees the freedom to protect ours.
We've seen some exceptional basketball with the NCAA Final Four narrowing down to this, its final weekend of play before Monday night's championship in the Mile High city of Denver. By tomorrow night, we'll have two still standing between Duke and Arkansas and Georgia Tech and UNLV. In the women's Final Four, hosted at the University of Tennessee, Virginia and Stanford and Auburn and Louisiana Tech play tonight in the semifinals with the championship Sunday afternoon. And the ladies' Final Four may outdraw the men's Final Four this weekend, which would be a first. Ticket sales for the women's Final Four have already exceeded sales for the men's Final Four, with the final count hinging, of course, on how many actually attend. And more than half of those pre-sold tickets belong to Tennessee fans whose team has since been eliminated. That's the way it goes. Back again for one last look at the weekend forecast. Here's Bridget. Bridget?
Thanks, Tom. Across the nation for Saturday, this frontal system will be moving further north, which will create a lot of thunderstorms in the Louisiana area. Up into the northeast, it will be very cloudy and chances of light rain back behind this frontal system. Over on the west coast, high pressure will dominate also tomorrow with very pleasant conditions in the Pacific Northwest and cloudy conditions throughout California. Very dry and mild temperatures across most of the Great Plains and very pleasant into Texas. The forecast in detail for today, the temperature will be 58 degrees. The winds will be south 10 to 20 miles per hour and no chance of precipitation. For tonight, clear skies, the low temperature of 31 degrees. The winds will be west at 5 to 15 miles per hour and no chance of precipitation. The extended outlook for the region, Saturday, partly sunny skies, 50 to 55 degrees, and Sunday, sunny skies, 45 to 50 degrees. So be sure on Saturday to turn your clocks ahead for daylight savings time. Tom?
All right, 58 degrees, surf is up if we could just find it, right, folks? There you have it. You're well on your way to the weekend. From all of us here at Studio One, a pleasure starting the day with you. We'll be here again next week. Hope you are too. Bye-bye.